Let's go further into the understanding and the dissecting and transformation of negative thinking, negative thought, even negativity as a whole. What I want you to really understand is that negativity is about perspective. When we think about negativity, we often think about it as something that is absolute, something that is clear cut, something that is shared between yourself, another person, and everybody else. But negativity is a very subjective experience. And though when you communicate with other people or they communicate to you and you exchange and interact and discuss certain ideas, concepts, experiences, many times people can empathize. Many times you can empathize with the negativity in contrast, right? In relationship to other experiences that you are exchanging and discussing with the other person or other people. But that really paints a picture as to this gray area of really getting into negativity versus positivity, right? And even the idea that positive is versus negativity, right? And not understanding that they are, in fact, the contrast of the whole picture. And we're going to dive deeper into that now. So, the first thing I want you to think about is this understanding of seeing things from the perspective of the glass being half full, right? Being optimistic about life. And many people think that that isn't realistic. And we know when we dive deep into the science of it, when you have two people who are having a same experience, having the same options, the same choices, the same access, it is their mindset that is going to determine the outcome of what they do. Because their mindset, if one is optimistic, positive, confident, right, and have a sense of faith in who they are and what they can do, they can create or what they want to create, they are more likely to succeed than the other person who has a more pessimistic idea, concept, and feel like everything is going against them and they have nothing going for themselves. They are not likely to take action. They're not likely to move forward. They're not likely to succeed. So when we think about the understanding of negativity, we know conceptually that negativity doesn't help you, right? But at the same time, it's still hard to really change your mindset if you're used to being in this perpetual state of thinking from a negative point of view. So, though you can consciously come into the conclusion, right, by analyzing and understanding facts and understanding that, the concept of it, it is still a matter of getting that conscious conclusion into your subconscious mind and making it a habit or a way of life. And that is where it becomes quote unquote difficult for many of us. And so the best thing to do is to continue to analyze, continue to use your conscious mind. The more you use your conscious mind and focus on a particular concept and particular understanding, a way of thinking, the more repetitive you are about that thing, then the more likely it is going to be implanted in your subconscious. And that's why things like affirmations, things like continuing to surround yourself with either information, whether it be books, whether it be media, videos, even people who align with your ultimate desire, right? Even though you may feel a little pessimistic about it, if you align yourself and you cultivate an environment where the desire can grow, then eventually you will implant this reality into your subconscious mind as a habit, right? As a habitual way of being, as a habitual way of thinking and feeling. And thus that becomes ultimately who you are when we think about your physical body, right? Your physical self, your mental self. And so you just have to continue to go through the process of going through this work, going through this information, listening to this insight, and then eventually over time, right, the more you do it, the more intense you are about it, the more likely and the quicker it is to become who you are and ultimately manifest and materialize the things that you want. And so when you talk about consciousness, we talk about subconsciousness, we can also acknowledge the ego, right? And the importance of recognizing the ego because negativity is an expression of the ego. And now we all know many people want to villainize the ego for that very reason without understanding the ego. The ego's nature and the ego's purpose here is to essentially protect you, okay? Because we are in this physical plane, all right? We are physical, in this physical body. And we have to acknowledge in order to protect this physical body and to protect ourselves and this identity that we are experiencing in this world, there needs to be an understanding of a separation between yourself and everything else. And with that understanding comes the idea of threats, of danger, right? Of, really wanting to protect oneself and shelter oneself from outside influences that may harm you, whether it be physically, whether it be emotionally, whether it even be spiritually. And so the ego's job in this world is to be the contrast to the consciousness, your consciousness, which is your purest divine spiritual self. Your consciousness is who you truly are. And thus, when we talk about the contrast of the universe, up, down, in, out, front, back, right, hot, cold, then you have to have a contrast to consciousness. That is the ego. So consciousness is your true self, ego is the false self. All right. And so when you are constantly being led by the ego, which is what this world does, it is it is really attached and identifies with the ego because the ego is a very prominent essence in this reality that we're in. But if you are not understanding consciousness, then you're going to be led by the ego and all the ego's ways of thinking, right? All the characteristics that come with it, all the byproducts of the ego when it's not managed right. Fear, anxiety, depression, ultimately negativity, right? The vibration of negativity, of lack, right? Of worry. And so when you identify where this is coming from, it isn't the fact that, okay, this thing in itself is negative. It is simply your perspective and how you look at it that makes it negative because you're coming from your ego self, because you're living in a space where you are separating yourself from all of the universe. You are separating yourself from divine intelligence, AKA God, right? And so, therefore, you are driven by fear. You're driven with this understanding that things are going to hurt you. All right. But when you are aligned with consciousness and you know that you cannot die, right? You simply only transform, you change forms, you cannot be hurt, you could only have experiences, then you recognize, okay, this is the thing. I have to be mindful about my ego because my ego, if I let it run wild, then it's going to simply identify nothing but negativity because that is its nature. And as we are living in this world, the the issue is with many of us is that we are not managing our ego. And so the world seems to be in a state of doom and gloom, right? But it isn't really. It's just a matter of your perspective. Because when you are coming from consciousness, the same experience that you're having that you once deemed negative from the ego is now an opportunity. And that's how you transform negativity into positivity. That's how you come into understanding of changing and recognizing that negativity isn't itself a fact. It isn't a fundamental truth. It is just simply a perspective, right? And if you are living in the truth of understanding your consciousness and being that, right, following that, then the point of view that you will have won't be one of fear, won't be one of lack, it won't be one of thinking something is going to hurt me or harm me, but ultimately recognizing that out of everything around in this world, in this reality, there are more, way more, far more beautiful, amazing things happening and there for you to experience than they are things that are fearful. right? Now, yes, you want to be mindful. Again, the ego is not meant for us to lock away, push away, to kill. It has a purpose. So we have to be mindful about danger. We have to be mindful about safety. But it is important not to let that lead you and be all of your experience and all of your existence in this world. You have to acknowledge first and foremost consciousness, because then when you are led by consciousness, because you begin to view the world differently from the lens of consciousness, then you begin to see that there are opportunities everywhere, everywhere. And so that becomes your reality. And that is essentially how you transform, right? And come into a alignment with connecting with your divine nature and shifting, right? From this nature of false self, of false reality, and coming into the divine self and recognizing, okay, well, there are always things happening. How I view it will determine what happens as a result, right? And so, however you view something will bring in magnitude, bring a sense of magnification to that thing. You essentially make things stronger by focusing on it. So if you're focusing on the negative aspects of an experience, right, and negativity is based on your point of view, then you simply have to change your point of view of the experience in order to see things from a positive advantage point, from the positive side of it. So don't look at something that's happened that may not be ideal for you, of course, right? You have an idea, you visualize, you think about, things that you desire, right? That is our intent, that is our nature, to think about what we desire and thus create that desire. Sometimes it doesn't go according to plan, but you have to recognize that there is something grander. There's a grander, bigger intelligence that is leading things as well, that you are one with. You're not separate from that intelligence. But you have to acknowledge that, okay, there is something else here. There is another opportunity here that my brain and my conscious mind isn't able to see or understand yet. But when you have faith in this divine intelligence, right? This super conscious intelligence, right? This infinite grand intelligence we often call God, then you understand, oh, okay, there's something else to be learned here. There's something else to recognize here. There's more to gain than what I even imagined. And that's where faith comes in, because many times we have this idea of what we want and it may happen. And then once we get it, we recognize, oh, okay, that wasn't as fulfilling as I had imagined. But then when you go with faith and this understanding that there is another level of intelligence that's happening that is in alignment with what you want, it actually knows better, right? Because it's more wise. And that divine intelligence, we often call God, then will create another route of opportunity for you to not only gain what it is that you desire, but even gain more. And you just simply have to have faith in that and understanding. So you have to recognize this alignment that needs to happen. And it's happening as you move forward with creating your desires and doing the things that you wish to do in life, and simply just living and enjoying and being in the moment of life. You see, so as you understand this whole picture of recognizing the duality, right? You want to, because that's what we think about it as, a duality, meaning two things. And many times when we think about negativity, we are separating it completely from positivity. And that is the problem. You see, it's like yin and yang. The images of yin and yang is two sides, a black side and a white side, right? It can be any color, but black and white usually represents the opposing colors, and it gives it more of a visual understanding of it being opposite. They are exactly the same shape. But what people fail to recognize is that one without the other does not make the complete and whole circle, right? It does not make the complete picture or experience of things. And so what happens is when people think about that which they want and they're not getting it or they don't see it happening, they tend to decide that, oh, this is negative. This is something I don't want. Or because they fear that they don't have the ability to create what they desire, they go into this space of negative thinking that they're not able to, that they don't have the skills to, right? But you have all the skills available to you right now to get yourself started in creating whatever you desire. All of the other skills necessary for you to actually materialize that thing will come in time. But you have to first understand that this idea of thinking things from a negative point of view would not help you because it is an incomplete picture. It is an incomplete understanding of your ability to create whatever you desire. You have to understand that negativity is only part of the picture. And when we usually come from this idea of this duality that we have to choose, right? That we have to go from being negative to being positive. Like there is a completely, like they are completely two different things. But really, what we're talking about is a completion of a whole. So, in other words, what I'm saying is negativity is not separate from positivity. It is simply a change in how you view the situation. How you view the situation determines whether or not something is negative or positive. It doesn't change the actual situation itself, you see. You change how you approach the situation. That makes it negative or positive. But as long as you are in alignment with what you desire and you are continuing to move forward with this understanding that you are a creator of your own universe and you are consciously committed to creating the universe you want, it doesn't matter what happens. Many people may look at it as negative, but in your mind, right, from your consciousness, you are so clear that you are doing and creating what you desire that it doesn't matter what happens, it is always positive to you. You see, this is how the universe works. It is following your lead. So your belief systems, your understandings about yourself and what you want are very imperative toward it following your lead. So this understanding of thinking negatively is false because it is an incomplete idea and picture of the understanding that everything follows you. So as long as you are focused, as long as you're clear as to your desire and what it is that you want, then it will break away this understanding of duality, that there is one or the other, when there is simply both. And that is determined by your ability to not be swayed, to simply understand that this is what you want. And that's it. So, in order to transform this negative way of thinking, you must have to, you must identify the understanding that there is no negative and positive, right? Not in terms of one or the other. Yes, there is ways of which you can view the situation, right? You can view it negatively, you can view it positively, right? You can have a mixed bag of how you view it. You can be completely neutral and indifferent, right? But that doesn't get you anywhere. Recognizing that it doesn't matter because it is all positive. You see, life is positive. Remember, life is love. Your very existence here is a demonstration of love. And that means that you get to create whatever you want, period. So transform your idea of thinking negatively and positively are two separate ways of thinking. Bring them together with the understanding that there is simply just an experience that is happening. How you view the experience will then determine how you identify with this negative or positive point of view, or simply accept the whole entire experience as simply that, an experience that you are having along the journey of you creating the life that you want. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, get access to this free ebook and many more free ebooks to come. Thank you so much. Continue to join me on this journey. peace, and abundance always.